A woman walks into the wrong place at the wrong time and ends up trapped in a criminal empire, forced to play the loving girlfriend of Chicago's most dangerous man. One lie, one deadly performance, one choice that could save her or destroy them both. If you're ready for a story about survival, deception, and the razor-thin line between captivity and choice, stay with me until the end. And when you're done, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Part 1. The Trap in the Dark. The cold hit Lena Carter like a fist the moment she stepped out of her car. Chicago in January didn't mess around. It went straight for the bones, sharp and mean, the kind of cold that made your lungs ache. She pulled her coat tighter, breath fogging in front of her face, and stared up at the concrete beast of a parking garage looming against the night sky. This was stupid. She knew it was stupid. But the tip had been good. 3 months of digging, 3 months of chasing ghosts through financial records and shell companies. And finally, someone had cracked. A low-level city contractor with a guilty conscience and a gambling problem had reached out, promised her proof. Real proof. The kind that could blow the lid off the whole operation. All she had to do was show up. 10th floor, midnight, bring a recorder. Lena checked her phone. 11:53 p.m. She should have brought someone, should have told her editor where she was going, should have done a lot of things. But she'd been burned before, stories killed, sources silenced, evidence that conveniently disappeared. This time she was doing it alone. This time she was getting the truth first, then figuring out who to trust. She stepped into the garage. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing like dying insects. Her footsteps echoed too loud in the hollow space, each click of her boots against the concrete announcing her presence. The place smelled like oil and piss and something else, something metallic she didn't want to think about. The elevator was broken. Of course it was. Lena found the stairwell and started climbing. By the 5th floor, her calves were burning. By the 8th, she was sweating under her coat despite the cold. She kept moving, kept counting floors, kept telling herself this would be worth it. 10th floor. She pushed through the door and stopped. The garage stretched out in front of her, mostly empty except for a handful of cars scattered in the shadows. The wind whipped through the open sides, carrying snow that hadn't quite decided whether to fall or just hang in the air. Lena scanned the space, looking for her source, looking for anyone. That's when she saw them. 2 men stood beside a black SUV, 40 feet away. One of them was older, gray-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her rent. The other was younger, thicker, hands shoved in his pockets. Between them sat a briefcase on the hood of the car. The older man was talking, his voice low but sharp. Lena couldn't make out the words, but she didn't need to. She'd seen enough shakedowns, enough backroom deals, enough dirty money changing hands to recognize the shape of it. Her heart kicked into overdrive. This wasn't her meeting. Her source wasn't here. This was something else entirely. She should leave. Turn around, walk back down those stairs, get in her car, and pretend she never saw anything. But then the older man opened the briefcase. Even from this distance, Lena could see the stacks of cash inside, neat and bundled and wrong. Her hand moved before her brain caught up. She pulled out her phone, switched to the camera, and started recording. Stupid. So goddamn stupid. She stayed low, ducked behind a concrete pillar, and kept the camera steady. The 2 men kept talking. Money changed hands, or started to. The younger guy picked up one of the stacks, rifled through it like he was checking something. Lena zoomed in, trying to catch faces, trying to get anything she could use. The older man laughed. It was an ugly sound, sharp and cold. He said something that made the younger guy nod, and then footsteps. Behind her, Lena's blood went ice. She spun around, phone still in her hand, and found herself staring at a 3rd man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a long black coat that made him look like a shadow come to life. His face was hard, all sharp angles and cold eyes, and he was looking at her like she was a bug that had just crawled into his field of vision. "The hell are you doing up here?" he asked. His voice was flat, bored almost, but there was something underneath it, something dangerous. Lena's throat closed. Wrong floor. I got lost." He didn't buy it. She could see it in the way his eyes flicked to her phone, still clutched in her hand, still recording. "Yeah?" he said. "Lost." "Sure." He moved fast. One second he was standing there, the next he had her wrist in his hand, twisting just hard enough to make her gasp, make her fingers open. The phone clattered to the ground. "Hey!" she tried, jerking back, but his grip was iron. The other two men had noticed now. The transaction had stopped. The younger guy was already moving toward them, and the older one just watched. "Got a little rat problem," the man holding her called out. The younger guy reached them first, picked up Lena's phone, checked the screen. His face went hard. "She was filming." "Yeah," the man holding her said. "I can see that." Lena's mind raced. She tried to pull free again, got nowhere. "Look, I don't know what you think you saw, but I'm just—" "Shut up." The words were cold, final. The older man approached now, taking his time, each step deliberate. Up close, Lena could see the details. The expensive watch, the tailored suit, the kind of shoes you didn't get unless you had money. Real money. But it was his face that made her stomach drop. Not because she recognized him, but because of the way he looked at her, like she was already dead. "Who are you?" he asked. Lena's mouth went dry. "Nobody. I'm nobody." "Try again." The man holding her wrist gave it another twist. Pain shot up her arm. "Lena Carter," she gasped out. "I'm a journalist. I'm working on a story. I wasn't a journalist." The older man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "What story?" "City contracts, fraud, nothing to do with—" She stopped, because lying was pointless now. They all knew it. The older man studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to the guy holding her. "Vince, take her downstairs. Make it quiet." Lena's heart stopped. "Wait," she started, but Vince was already dragging her backward toward the stairwell. She dug her heels in, tried to fight, but he outweighed her by 100 pounds easy. "Please," she said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Please, I won't say anything. I'll delete everything, just—" "They all say that," Vince muttered. They were almost at the stairwell door when another voice cut through the garage. "Hold it!" Everyone stopped. Lena twisted in Vince's grip, trying to see who'd spoken. A fourth man stepped out from behind one of the parked cars, moving with the kind of easy confidence that came from never having to wonder if someone would listen when you talked. He was younger than the others, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair and sharp features that might have been handsome if they weren't so cold. He wore a black suit, no tie, and when he walked, the other men shifted, not away from him, but toward him, like gravity. The older man straightened. "Mr. Voss, I didn't realize you were—" "I'm aware," the newcomer, Voss, said. His eyes hadn't left Lena. "What's the situation?" "Journalist," the older man said, like that explained everything. "She was recording the exchange." Voss walked closer. Lena tried not to shake. He stopped a few feet away, looking her over with an expression that gave away nothing. "Your phone." The younger guy handed it over. Voss checked the screen, watched a few seconds of the recording, then pocketed the device. "Delete it," Lena said, because she had nothing left to lose. "Take it. I don't care. Just let me go." "Let you go," Voss repeated, like he was testing the words. "So you can write your story anyway. Call the cops? Ruin 6 months of work?" "I won't." "Yes, you will." He said it with absolute certainty. "You're a journalist. It's what you do." Lena's chest tightened. "Then what do you want?" Voss was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at the older man. "Marcus, we're done here. Take your money and go." Marcus hesitated. "Sir, the liability—" "I'll handle it." It wasn't a suggestion. Marcus grabbed the briefcase, nodded once, and headed for the SUV. The younger guy followed. Within 30 seconds, the vehicle was pulling away, taillights disappearing down the ramp. Vince still had hold of Lena's wrist. She could feel her pulse hammering against his fingers. Voss walked in a slow circle around her, like he was deciding something. "Lena Carter," he said quietly. "Investigative journalist. 29 years old. Works for the Chicago Tribune, mostly freelance. No family in the city. Lives alone in a studio apartment in Pilsen." Cold dread washed over her. "How do you—" "Sit! I know a lot of things." He stopped in front of her. "The question is what I'm going to do with you." Lena forced herself to meet his eyes. "You could let me go." I could. He tilted his head. Or I could have Vince put a bullet in your head and drop you in the river. Simpler that way. She believed him, every word. But, Voss continued, I have a better idea. Vince's grip loosened slightly, like he was confused. Lena didn't dare move. I need someone, Voss said, still watching her. Someone who can play a role. Someone smart enough to pull it off, desperate enough not to run. I don't understand. You will. He pulled out her phone, held it up. Here's the deal. You work for me for 3 months. Do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you, no questions. In exchange, I don't kill you, and when it's over, you walk away clean. Phone, footage, everything deleted. You get your life back. Lena stared at him. Work for you how? I need a girlfriend. The words hung in the cold air. You're insane, Lena said. Probably. Voss pocketed her phone again. But it's the only offer you're getting. 3 months of your life, or none at all. Choose. Her mind spun. This couldn't be real. People didn't just... This wasn't how things worked. But the man standing in front of her was real. The gun she could see under Vince's coat was real. The cold seeping into her bones was real. Why? She managed. Because I need someone my grandmother will believe, Voss said simply. Someone who can smile and lie and make her think I've finally found someone worth keeping. She's dying. Cancer. 6 months if she's lucky. And all she wants before she goes is to see me happy. That's sentimental? Yeah. His expression didn't change. But she raised me, and I owe her this much. Lena's head was pounding. None of this made sense. Why me? Because you're smart. Because you're good at reading people. You'd have to be in your line of work. Because you're here, and you saw something you shouldn't have, and now you're useful. He paused. And because if you run, if you talk, if you screw this up even once, I will find you, and I will make sure you regret it. That's not a choice, Lena said, voice shaking. That's a threat. It's both. Voss stepped back. Vince, let her go. The grip on her wrist disappeared. Lena stumbled, caught herself, rubbed feeling back into her arm. You've got 30 seconds to decide, Voss said. After that, the offer is off the table. She looked around. The garage, the night, the city lights in the distance. She could run, try to. Maybe she'd make it to the stairs before Vince put a bullet in her back. Maybe not. Or she could say yes, lie for 3 months, pretend to be someone she wasn't, survive. If I do this, Lena said slowly, I want protection, real protection. Not just from you, from whoever else is involved in... She waved a hand at where Marcus had been standing. Whatever that was. Voss almost smiled. Almost. Done. And after 3 months, I'm free. Completely free. No surveillance, no threats, no strings. After 3 months, you'll never hear from me again. Lena's hands were shaking. She shoved them in her pockets. Fine. I'll do it. Good. Voss turned and started walking toward a sleek black car parked near the edge of the level. Vince, bring her. Lena didn't move. Where are we going? Voss looked back over his shoulder. My place. You've got a lot to learn, and not much time to learn it. Starting tonight. I need to go home first, get my things. No. The word was final. You don't get to go home, Voss said. Not yet. You're a security risk until I know you can handle this. Vince will collect your essentials tomorrow. Tonight, you come with me. Every instinct Lena had screamed at her to refuse, to fight, to run. But she looked at Vince, at the gun, at the empty garage around her, and knew she was out of options. She followed Adrian Voss to the car. But the house wasn't what she expected. Lena had pictured something gaudy. Marble columns, gold fixtures, the kind of place someone with too much money and no taste would build. But when Vince pulled the car through the iron gates and up the long driveway, what she saw was different. It was a mansion, sure. 3 stories of dark stone and tall windows surrounded by perfectly manicured grounds that looked like something out of a magazine. But there was a weight to it, a kind of old money elegance that felt earned somehow, like it had been here long before Voss and would be here long after. The car stopped. Voss got out first, not waiting for her. Lena climbed out into the cold, looked up at the house, and felt the full reality of what she'd agreed to slam into her. She was here, in the home of a man she didn't know, who'd threatened to kill her less than an hour ago, about to pretend to be someone she wasn't. This was insane. Coming? Voss called from the front steps. Lena forced her legs to move. Inside, the house was warm, almost too warm after the cold outside. The entry hall was all dark wood and soft lighting, with a staircase that curved up to the second floor. Everything was pristine, carefully arranged, like someone had spent a lot of time making sure it looked both expensive and lived in. A woman appeared from one of the side rooms, older, maybe 60, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked at Lena with mild curiosity, then at Voss. "Sir," she said, "I didn't realize we were expecting company." "Last minute," Voss said, shrugging off his coat. "Diane, this is Lena. She'll be staying here for a while. Set her up in the guest room, second floor. Make sure she has everything she needs." Diane's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Of course. This way, Miss Carter." Lena followed the older woman up the stairs, too tired and too rattled to ask questions. The guest room was huge, bigger than her entire apartment, with a 4-poster bed, an ensuite bathroom, and windows that looked out over the grounds. "There are clothes in the closet," Diane said. "They should fit, more or less. If you need anything else, there's a phone by the bed. Dial 9 for the kitchen." "Thank you," Lena managed. Diane nodded and left, closing the door behind her. Lena stood in the middle of the room, listening to the silence, and tried to breathe. She was trapped, completely, utterly trapped. And the worst part? She had no idea what came next. Mom. She didn't sleep. Lena lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through everything that had happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Voss's face, heard his voice. 3 months of your life, or none at all. Around 5 in the morning, she gave up and went to the window. The grounds were still dark, but she could see the outline of the gates in the distance, the wall that surrounded the property. There were cameras too. She'd spotted at least 3 on the way in. No way out. Not yet. A soft knock on the door made her jump. "It's open," she called. Because what else was she going to do? Diane stepped inside, carrying a tray with coffee and toast. "Mr. Voss would like to see you in his office. 30 minutes. Tell him I need more time." "He's not asking." Lena took the coffee. It was good, better than anything she usually drank. "Where's his office?" "Second floor, west wing. I'll show you." 25 minutes later, Lena was showered, dressed in clothes that fit better than they had any right to, and following Diane through the quiet halls of the house. They passed a library, a sitting room, what looked like a home gym. Everything was meticulously kept, everything perfect. The office was at the end of the hall, behind a heavy wooden door. Diane knocked once, opened it, and gestured for Lena to go in. Adrian Voss sat behind a large desk, reading something on his laptop. He looked up when she entered, closed the computer, and gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." Lena sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Voss studied her the same way he had in the garage, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Did you sleep?" he asked finally. "No." "Good. That means you understand how serious this is." Lena crossed her arms. "What do you want from me?" Voss leaned back in his chair. "I told you, I need you to play my girlfriend. Convincingly. My grandmother's name is Elena Voss. She lives in a care facility about 20 minutes from here. Late-stage cancer, like I said. Maybe 6 months left, probably less. And she wants to see you happy. She wants to see me settled with someone. She's been on my case about it for years." He paused. "She thinks I'm too focused on work, too isolated. She's not wrong. What does she know about your work?" "Nothing." The word was flat. "And it's staying that way." Lena frowned. "So you're lying to a dying woman." "I'm giving her peace." Voss's expression hardened. "There's a difference." "Is there? You think I should tell her the truth? That I run half the underground operations in this city? That the reason I'm not married is because anyone who gets close to me becomes a target?" He shook his head. "She doesn't need that. She needs to believe I'm okay. That I'll be okay. And you're going to help me give her that." Lena wanted to argue, wanted to push back, but the look in his eyes stopped her. There was something there, something raw and hurting and buried deep. He really did care about this woman. What do I need to do? She asked quietly. Voss pulled a folder from his desk drawer and slid it across to her. Learn everything in here. My history, my family, the story of how we met. You have 2 days before I take you to see her. Lena opened the folder. Inside were pages and pages of notes, biographical details, photos, timelines. You've been planning this? For a while, yeah. I just didn't have the right person. He looked at her. Until now. She flipped through the pages. This says we met at a charity event 6 months ago. We did. You just don't remember it. Voss stood, walked to the window. I've been watching you for a while, Lena. Ever since you started poking around the city contract story. You're good at what you do. Thorough. Relentless. Those are useful qualities. The idea that he'd been watching her made her skin crawl. And if I mess up? If your grandmother doesn't believe me? Then we adjust. Practice more. Try again. He turned to face her. But you won't mess up. You're too smart for that. You don't know me. I know enough. Voss walked back to his desk, picked up a small box, and tossed it to her. You'll need this. Lena caught it, opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the light. An engagement ring, she said flatly. Eventually. For now, just wear it when we're visiting her. We're taking it slow. Lena stared at the ring, at the cold metal, and the pretty lie it represented. This is insane. Yeah, Voss agreed, but it's happening anyway. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Lena spent hours in that office, memorizing details, asking questions, trying to build a version of herself that could fit into Adrian Voss's life. She learned that he'd grown up in Chicago, that his parents had died in a car accident when he was 17, that his grandmother had raised him from that point on. She learned his favorite foods, his habits, the way he took his coffee. She learned that he was 36, that he'd built his organization from the ground up over 15 years, that he was ruthless but not reckless, that people feared him, respected him, but very few actually knew him. And she learned the story they were supposed to tell Elena, that they'd met at a fundraiser for pediatric cancer research, that Adrian had been charmed by her wit, that they'd been dating quietly ever since, keeping it private because Lena valued her independence and he valued her safety. It was a good lie, solid, believable. Lena hated it. She also met more of the staff. Diane, who ran the house with quiet efficiency. Marcus, the man from the garage, who turned out to be Adrian's financial manager. And Vince, who seemed to be some combination of bodyguard and enforcer. None of them asked questions. None of them seemed surprised she was there. On the third day, Adrian told her it was time. They drove to the care facility in silence. It was a nice place. Private, expensive, the kind of place where people went when they could afford to die comfortably. Adrian checked in at the desk, and they took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Remember, he said as they walked down the hall, she's sharp. Don't underestimate her just because she's sick. I won't. And smile. You're supposed to be happy. Lena forced her face into something that might pass for happiness. It felt fake, brittle, like it might crack at any second. Adrian stopped outside a door marked 304, took a breath, and knocked. Come in, a voice called from inside. He opened the door and stepped through. Lena followed. The room was bright, filled with afternoon sunlight. There were flowers on the windowsill, photos on the walls, a wheelchair folded in the corner. And in the bed, propped up with pillows, was a small, thin woman with gray hair and dark eyes that looked too sharp for someone so frail. Elena Voss smiled when she saw Adrian. There's my boy. Hi, Grandma. He walked over, kissed her cheek, and then turned back to Lena. I brought someone I want you to meet. Elena's gaze shifted to Lena. Those sharp eyes took her in, top to bottom, missing nothing. Well, Elena said softly, aren't you going to introduce us? Adrian held out a hand. Lena walked over, took it, and felt his fingers close around hers, warm, solid, and completely in control. Grandma, Adrian said, this is Lena Carter. Lena, this is my grandmother, Elena. Lena smiled. It's so nice to finally meet you. Adrian's told me so much about you. Elena studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled back. Has he? That's a first. Adrian never tells me anything. I tell you things, Adrian protested. You tell me you're fine and working too much. Elena's eyes stayed on Lena. But this is different. Sit, both of you. I want to hear everything. They sat. Adrian kept hold of Lena's hand, and for the next hour, Lena lied. She told the story they'd practiced, the fundraiser, the conversation, the slow build of something real. She laughed at the right moments, looked at Adrian with just enough affection to be believable, and answered Elena's gentle but probing questions with a mix of truth and carefully crafted fiction. It was exhausting. But it worked. When they finally left, Elena was beaming. She's wonderful, Adrian. Don't you dare let her get away. I won't, Adrian promised. In the elevator, Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. You did well, Adrian said. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That'll pass. They drove back to the house in silence. When they got there, Adrian disappeared into his office, and Lena went up to her room and collapsed on the bed. One visit down. How many more to go? The visits became routine. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times, Adrian would take her to see Elena. They'd sit, they'd talk, they'd keep up the performance. And slowly, against every instinct Lena had, it started to feel less like a lie. Elena was sharp, like Adrian had warned, but she was also kind, funny, interested in Lena's life in a way that felt genuine. She asked about Lena's work, her family, her dreams, and Lena found herself answering honestly more often than not, weaving truth into the fiction until she couldn't quite tell where one ended and the other began. Adrian noticed. You're getting too comfortable, he said one night after a visit. They were in his office again. Lena had started spending more time there, going over details, asking questions, trying to understand the man she was supposed to love. Is that a bad thing? She asked. It is if you forget this is temporary. Lena looked at him. Do you forget? No, but something in his voice made her wonder. The truth was things were changing. Slowly, subtly, but undeniably. Adrian was still cold, still controlled, still dangerous, but she was starting to see cracks. The way he'd pause before answering certain questions. The way he'd look at his grandmother with something that might have been grief. The way he'd watch Lena sometimes like he was trying to figure out who she really was underneath the performance. And Lena, God help her, was starting to see him as more than just the man who'd threatened her life. She saw the way he worked, the meticulous planning, the way he balanced a dozen different operations without breaking a sweat. She saw the loyalty he inspired in people like Vince and Diane. She saw the way he kept his grandmother's room filled with fresh flowers every week, even though Elena barely noticed anymore. She saw someone who'd built a wall around himself so high, even he couldn't see over it. It should have made her more afraid. Instead, it made her curious. Why did you really choose me? She asked one night. They were alone in the library, Adrian reading reports, Lena pretending to read a book, but mostly just watching him. He looked up. I told you. You were there. You were useful. Bullshit, Lena set her book aside. You could have grabbed anyone, paid someone. Hell, you could have hired an actress. Why me? Adrian was quiet for a long time. Then he closed his laptop and looked at her directly. Because you're real, he said finally. Everyone else in my life is there because I pay them or because they're afraid of me. You're here because you have to be, yeah, but you don't pretend. You don't try to impress me or manipulate me or play games. You just... He stopped, seemed to think better of whatever he was going to say. You're real. My grandmother needed to see someone real. Lena's chest tightened. That's almost sweet. Don't get used to it. But she already was. Then everything went wrong. It started with a phone call. Lena was in her room, reading through another batch of files Adrian had given her, when she heard shouting downstairs. She opened her door, listened. Adrian's voice, sharp and furious. Then Vince. Then someone else she didn't recognize. She should have stayed put, should have minded her own business. Instead, she went downstairs. The shouting was coming from Adrian's office. The door was half open. Lena approached carefully, staying out of sight, and listened. Don't care what he wants, Adrian was saying. The deal was clean territory. He crosses that line, the truce is over. He's already crossed it. That was Vince. Hit one of our distributors last night, took the shipment, left 2 guys in the hospital. Then we hit back. Sir, a third voice, unfamiliar. He's got backing now. The Kozlov crew out of New York. This isn't just Reyes anymore. Silence. Then Adrian, quieter but somehow more dangerous. I don't care if he's got an army. He broke the rules. We respond. Lena's blood ran cold. This was it. The reality of what Adrian actually did. Not abstract deals in parking garages, but violence, territory, war. She started to back away. The floor creaked under her foot. The conversation stopped. A second later, Vince appeared in the doorway. He saw her, his expression shifting from surprise to something colder. Problem? He asked. She's fine, Adrian called from inside. Let her in. Vince stepped aside. Lena walked into the office on shaking legs. Adrian sat behind his desk, looking tired. There was another man with him, younger, with a scar running down his left cheek. Both of them watched her. How much did you hear? Adrian asked. Lena thought about lying. Enough. Good. Then you know what kind of business I'm in, what you're part of now, whether you like it or not. I'm not part of this. You are the second you agreed to that deal. Adrian stood, walked around the desk. You think you can just play pretend for 3 months and walk away clean? It doesn't work like that. Not in this world. Lena's hands clenched into fists. You said I'd be safe. You are. As long as you stay here, as long as you don't do anything stupid. Like eavesdropping? Like running. His eyes locked on hers. Don't run, Lena. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. And for the first time since this started, Lena realized just how deep she'd fallen into something she didn't understand. That night she tried anyway. She waited until the house was quiet, until she was sure Adrian was in his office and Vince was wherever Vince went. Then she slipped out of her room, made her way downstairs, and headed for the side door that led to the grounds. It was locked. Of course it was. She tried the windows. Also locked. The front door. Locked. Panic started to rise. She moved faster, checking every exit, every possible way out, and found nothing. The house was a prison, and she'd been too stupid to notice. Looking for something? Lena spun around. Adrian stood at the base of the stairs, watching her. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. I can't stay here, Lena said. I can't. This isn't what I signed up for. Yes, it is. He walked closer. You signed up the second you pointed that camera at a deal you had no business seeing. This is what survival looks like, Lena. It's ugly and it's unfair, and it's the only option you have. I want out. Too bad. She wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, wanted to break something. Instead, she just stood there, shaking. Adrian's expression softened, just slightly. Go back to your room. Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning. I hate you. I know. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the dark. Lena went back upstairs. She didn't sleep. And she started planning. Part 2 lưu ý. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hôi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kẻ theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo. Hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sang. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chỉ dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Shotomorshal 1329. Part 2. A Dangerous Performance. The morning came too fast and not fast enough. Lena sat at the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. She'd spent the night running through every possible scenario, every angle, every way this could play out. The conclusion was always the same. She was stuck. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she said, her voice rough from lack of sleep. Diane entered with a tray, coffee, fruit, toast, the same routine as always. "Mr. Voss would like to see you after breakfast." Of course he would. Diane set the tray down, hesitated. "For what it's worth, Miss Carter, running won't help. He'll find you. He always does." Lena looked up sharply. "You've seen others try?" "I've worked for Mr. Voss for 12 years. I've seen a lot of things." Diane's expression was unreadable. "The ones who accept their situation fare better than the ones who fight it." That's not exactly comforting. It wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be honest. Diane moved toward the door. 30 minutes. When she was gone, Lena forced herself to eat. The food tasted like ash, but she needed the energy, needed to think clearly. 28 minutes later, she was walking down the hall to Adrian's office. He was waiting, seated behind his desk with a cup of coffee and that same unreadable expression he always wore. When she entered, he gestured to the chair across from him. Lena sat. "Sleep well?" he asked. "You know I didn't." "Yeah." He took a sip of coffee. "Look, about last night, I don't want to talk about it." "Too bad. We need to." Adrian set his cup down, leaned forward. "You heard things you weren't supposed to hear, things that put you in a difficult position." "I'm already in a difficult position." "A more difficult position," he corrected. "Before you were just playing a role. Now you know what's actually at stake. The people I deal with, the situations I'm in, they're not theoretical anymore." Lena crossed her arms. "So what? You're going to kill me now?" "No." The word was flat, certain. "But I need to know you understand the rules. You don't talk about what you hear, you don't ask questions, and you definitely don't try to leave again." "Or what?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "Or people get hurt, not just you. Your editor at the Tribune, your friend Sarah in Milwaukee, that college roommate you still call on her birthday." He paused. "I told you I know a lot of things, Lena. I wasn't exaggerating." Cold fury washed over her. "You're threatening them?" "I'm protecting them. As long as you cooperate, they stay safe. They stay in the dark. They live their lives and never know you were involved in any of this." "That's sick. That's survival." Adrian stood, walked to the window. "You think I like this? You think I enjoy forcing someone to play house while my entire operation is on the verge of a territory war? Then let me go." "I can't." He turned back to face her. "My grandmother saw you. She liked you. She's asking about you constantly. When are you coming back? What are your plans? Has Adrian told you how much she adores you?" His voice cracked, just slightly. "She's happy, Lena. For the first time in months, she's actually happy. And I can't take that away from her, not now." Lena stared at him. For the first time, she saw past the cold exterior to something raw underneath. He wasn't just doing this for show. He genuinely cared about Elena, loved her even. "How long does she have?" Lena asked quietly. "Weeks. Maybe a month if we're lucky." Adrian sat back down, suddenly looking exhausted. "The doctors say it's spreading faster than they expected. She's in pain most of the time, but she won't admit it. Won't take the stronger medications because she says they make her fuzzy. She wants to be present." "Yeah." They sat in silence for a moment. "I'm sorry," Lena said finally. "About your grandmother. It's horrible." "Don't." Adrian's voice was sharp. "Don't start sympathizing with me. It makes this harder." "Makes what harder?" He didn't answer. Lena took a breath. "If I keep doing this, if I keep seeing Elena keep playing this role, I need something from you. You're not in a position to negotiate. I know, but I'm asking anyway." She met his eyes. "I need to understand what's happening. The deal I overheard, the territory war, all of it. If I'm stuck in this world, I need to know the rules." Adrian studied her. "Why?" "Because I'm a journalist. Information is how I survive. And right now, I'm walking blind through a minefield." He considered this. "If I tell you things, operational things, you become more of a liability. I'm already a liability. At least this way I won't accidentally do something that gets us both killed. Adrian was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded, once. Fine, but we do this my way. You ask questions, I decide what to answer. And nothing, absolutely nothing, leaves this house. Understood? Understood. Good. He pulled a file from his desk drawer, slid it across to her. Start with this. Background on the major players in the city. Who controls what? Who's allied with who? Where the pressure points are. Lena opened the file. Inside were organizational charts, photos, names she half recognized from her research months ago. This is a lot. It's the tip of the iceberg. Adrian stood. Read it. Memorize it. We have another visit with my grandmother this afternoon, and after that you're coming to a meeting with me. What kind of meeting? The kind where you sit quietly and look pretty and don't say a goddamn word unless I tell you to. Lena bristled. I'm not. You want to understand this world? That's how you start. Observation. He walked to the door, paused. And Lena, whatever you see tonight, whatever you hear, remember that these people eat weakness for breakfast. Don't give them any. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with a file full of dangerous names and a growing sense that she'd just agreed to something far worse than playing girlfriend. The visit with Elena was different this time. Lena had been to see her a dozen times now, enough that the routine felt almost normal. But today, knowing what she knew, seeing the fragility in Elena's movements, the way her hand shook slightly when she reached for her water, it hit different. This woman was dying, and she had no idea her grandson was neck-deep in a criminal empire that could collapse at any moment. You're quiet today? Elena observed. She was sitting up in bed, looking better than she had in days. Everything all right? Just tired, Lena said, forcing a smile. Work's been busy. Still chasing those corruption stories? Lena's chest tightened. If only she knew. Something like that. Adrian sat beside her, his hand resting on hers in a gesture that had become automatic. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple. Comfortable. Real. The scary part was how easy it had become. You should take a break, Elena said, looking at Adrian. Take her somewhere nice. When's the last time you took a vacation? I don't take vacations, Grandma. Exactly my point. Elena's expression softened. You work too hard, Adrian. Both of you do. Life is short. Trust me on this. And you need to actually live it. Adrian's hand tightened slightly on Lena's. We will, when things settle down. Things are always settling down with you. Elena shook her head. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll take care of each other. Really take care of each other. Not just... She waved a hand. Going through the motions. I want you to be happy. Both of you. Lena felt something twist in her chest. The lie was getting heavier. Every visit, every smile, every moment of pretend affection, it was all building into something she couldn't quite name. I promise, Adrian said softly. Elena smiled. Good. Now, Lena, tell me more about that piece you're working on. The one about housing policy. They'd made that up 3 weeks ago. A fake story about corrupt landlords and zoning violations. Lena had gotten so used to the fiction, she could recite it in her sleep. She talked. Adrian listened. Elena asked questions that were sharper than they should have been for someone on that much medication. And for an hour, they played their parts. When they left, Elena was already drifting off to sleep, a small smile on her face. In the elevator, Lena let out a breath. She's getting worse, she said quietly. Yeah. Does she know? She knows. Adrian's voice was tight. She just doesn't want to talk about it. They drove back to the house in silence. When they arrived, Adrian told her to change into something more formal. A dress, heels, makeup. For the meeting? Lena asked. For the meeting. An hour later, she stood in front of the mirror in her room, barely recognizing herself. The dress was black, elegant, expensive. The heels made her taller. The makeup made her look older, more polished. She looked like someone who belonged in Adrian Voss's world. The thought should have been terrifying. Instead, it was just strange. A knock at the door. Vince's voice. Car's ready? Lena grabbed her coat and headed downstairs. Adrian was waiting by the front door, dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than her car. He looked her over, nodded once. You'll do. Gee, thanks. Remember what I said? Quiet, observant, don't react to anything. Got it. They drove into the city, to a part of Chicago Lena knew only from headlines. An industrial district where the warehouses were old and the streetlights were few. Vince pulled the car into a lot beside a building that looked abandoned but clearly wasn't. There were other cars already there, expensive ones, and men standing outside smoking, men with guns. Lena's pulse kicked up. Adrian noticed. Breathe, they're not here for you. That's not as comforting as you think it is. They got out of the car. The men outside straightened when they saw Adrian, nodded respectfully. One of them opened the door. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into something functional. Concrete floors, folding tables, metal chairs. A group of men stood around one of the tables, talking in low voices. They looked up when Adrian entered. Voss, one of them said. He was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and a face that looked like it had seen too many fights. Didn't expect you to bring company. She's with me, Adrian said simply. That's all you need to know. The man's eyes flicked to Lena, assessing. She kept her expression neutral. Adrian moved to the table. Lena followed, staying close. Vince took up position behind them. Let's get started, Adrian said. Marcus, what do we know about Reyes's movements? Marcus, the same man from the parking garage that first night, stepped forward with a tablet. He's consolidating, pulled his operations back to the south side, brought in reinforcements from New York. Kozlov's people, like we thought. Numbers? Maybe 20 guys, well-armed, well-trained. One of the other men spoke up. We hit him now. We can end this before it escalates. Or we trigger a full-scale war with Kozlov, someone else countered. Adrian held up a hand. We're not hitting anyone yet. Reyes wants us to react, wants us to make the first move so he can claim self-defense to the other families. So what do we do? The gray-haired man asked. We wait, we watch, we make sure every route he needs is locked down tight. He wants territory? He's going to have to fight for every inch. Adrian looked around the table. But we do it smart. No unnecessary casualties, no collateral damage. We protect our people and our assets, and we let Reyes make the next mistake. There was a murmur of agreement. They talked strategy for another hour. Supply lines, patrol routes, contingency plans. Lena listened, filing away every detail, every name, every mention of locations and resources. Her journalist brain was working overtime, cataloging information she shouldn't have. At one point, someone mentioned a shipment coming through the docks. What kind of shipment? Another man asked. Adrian's expression didn't change. Medical supplies. For the clinics on the west side. Lena knew bullshit when she heard it. Medical supplies didn't require this level of security. But she kept her face blank, kept her mouth shut. The meeting wound down. Men shook hands, made promises, dispersed. Adrian stayed at the table, reviewing something on Marcus's tablet. The gray-haired man approached Lena. You're the girlfriend, right? He said. His tone wasn't friendly, but it wasn't hostile either. Just curious. Lena nodded. That's right. Huh. Never thought Voss would settle down. You must be something special. Or just patient. The man laughed, a sharp barking sound. Yeah, patience. That'll do it. He looked her over again. Word of advice, sweetheart. Don't get too comfortable. This life, it chews people up. I'll keep that in mind. He walked away. Lena exhaled slowly. Adrian appeared at her elbow. You did well. I didn't do anything. Exactly. He guided her toward the exit. Come on. We're done here. On the drive back, Lena stared out the window at the city lights blurring past. What did he mean? She asked finally. That man. He said this life chews people up. Adrian was quiet for a moment. He meant that people in this world don't last. They burn out, get killed, or get smart and leave. There's no middle ground. Which one are you? None of the above. He looked at her. I'm the one who built the fire. Lena turned back to the window. That's a lonely way to live? It's the only way I know. They didn't talk for the rest of the drive. Back at the house, Lena went straight to her room. She kicked off the heels, washed off the makeup, changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt. Then she sat on the bed and tried to process everything she'd seen. This was real. Not abstract, not theoretical, real. Men with guns, plans for violence, a criminal operation that ran through the veins of the city like poison. And she was part of it now, willingly or not. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "It's open," she called. Adrian stepped inside. He'd changed too, lost the suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves. He looked more human like this, less like a crime boss, more like a tired man carrying too much weight. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Can you?" "Not often." He leaned against the doorframe. "I wanted to check on you. Make sure you're okay after tonight." "I'm fine." "You're lying." Lena looked at him. "What do you want me to say, Adrian? That I'm terrified? That every time I see another layer of this, I understand a little more how trapped I really am?" "Yeah, that'd be honest, at least." "Fine, I'm terrified. Happy?" "No." He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. "But I appreciate the honesty." They stood there facing each other in the quiet. "Why did you bring me tonight?" Lena asked. "To that meeting. Why did you want me there?" Adrian considered the question. "Because you asked to understand, and because—" He stopped, seemed to wrestle with something. "Because I needed to see if you could handle it, the reality of what I do." "And?" "You didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't make me look weak in front of men who'd exploit any sign of weakness." He paused. "You did better than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" "It's a fact." Lena sat down on the edge of the bed. "This is so messed up." "Yeah. Your grandmother thinks you're some kind of businessman. Clean, legitimate, successful." "I am successful." "You know what I mean." Lena looked up at him. "Does it ever bother you, lying to her?" Adrian's expression hardened. "Every day. But the truth would kill her faster than the cancer." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He moved to the window, stared out at the dark grounds. "When I was 17, my parents died. Car accident on the highway. Drunk driver ran them off the road." His voice was flat, reciting facts. "My grandmother took me in, raised me, kept me from falling apart." "I'm sorry," Lena said quietly. "Don't be. It was a long time ago." He didn't turn around. "But after they died, I was angry. At everything. At the world for taking them. At the system that let the drunk driver walk on a technicality. At the fact that no one seemed to care." "So you built something that did care?" "I built something that doesn't rely on broken systems, where the rules are clear and the consequences are real." He finally looked back at her. "It's not legal, it's not clean, but it works." Lena absorbed this. "And your grandmother?" "She never knew, never suspected. I kept that part of my life completely separate. She thinks I made my money in real estate and investments, which," he shrugged, "isn't entirely a lie. Just not the whole truth. And now she's dying, and all she wants is to see you happy." "Yeah." Lena stood, walked over to stand beside him at the window. "For what it's worth, I think she'd be proud of you anyway. The parts she knows." "Maybe." Adrian's voice was soft. "But I'm not taking that chance." They stood there in silence, side by side, looking out at nothing. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said eventually. "Depends on the question. That night in the garage, when you caught me, you could have had Vince kill me right there. No one would have known. Why didn't you?" Adrian was quiet for a long time. "Honestly? I don't know. Maybe it was the way you didn't beg, didn't cry, just looked me in the eye and asked what I wanted." He glanced at her. "Or maybe I saw someone who reminded me of myself, someone trying to expose corruption, to make things right, even if it meant risking everything." "That's stupid?" "Yeah, but here we are." Lena felt something shift in her chest, something dangerous. "Adrian, don't!" He stepped back. "Don't start seeing me as something I'm not. I'm still the man who threatened your life. Who's keeping you here against your will? Don't forget that." "I'm not forgetting, but I'm also not blind." She turned to face him fully. "You're not just a monster. You're complicated." "Complicated is just another word for damaged." "Maybe," Lena crossed her arms. "Or maybe it means you're human." Adrian looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he moved toward the door. Get some sleep, Lena. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Why? Because my grandmother wants to have dinner with both of us at her place. Lena's stomach dropped. The care facility? No. She convinced her doctors to let her come home for a night. She wants to cook. His hand was on the doorknob. So tomorrow we spend the evening pretending to be a happy couple in the house where I grew up. Sound fun? Sounds terrifying. Yeah. He opened the door. Welcome to my life. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone again with her thoughts and the growing realization that the lines between performance and reality were getting harder to see. She didn't sleep that night either. The next day arrived with gray skies and the promise of snow. Lena spent the morning reviewing the files Adrian had given her, memorizing faces and names and connections. By the time Diane came to tell her the car was ready, she felt like her brain might explode. The drive to Elena's house took them out of the city proper and into the suburbs. Tree-lined streets, well-kept lawns. The kind of neighborhood where people knew their neighbors and nothing bad ever happened. Adrian was tense the entire drive. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched in his lap. You okay? Lena asked quietly. No. Want to talk about it? No. She left him alone. The house was smaller than Adrian's mansion, but still impressive. A 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch and flower boxes in the windows. A nurse's car was parked in the driveway. Adrian helped Elena to the door. She looked frailer than ever, but her eyes were bright with determination. Come in, she said, waving them inside. I know it's not much, but it's perfect, Grandma, Adrian said. Inside, the house was warm and lived in. Photos covered every surface. Adrian as a child, his parents, Elena when she was younger. The furniture was old but comfortable, the kind that had stories attached to every piece. Lena felt like an intruder. Elena had insisted on cooking, despite the nurse's protests. She moved slowly through the kitchen, Adrian hovering nearby, and Lena helping where she could. They made pasta, Elena's recipe, apparently, handed down from her mother. Adrian used to help me in the kitchen when he was little, Elena said, smiling at the memory. He was terrible at it. I was 8, Adrian protested. You were 12, and you still couldn't crack an egg without getting shell everywhere. Lena laughed despite herself. Really? He's better now, Elena conceded, but only barely. They ate dinner at the small dining table, the 3 of them crowded together. The food was good, simple, but made with care. Elena told stories about Adrian's childhood, embarrassing moments and small victories. Adrian looked mortified but didn't stop her. And Lena found herself relaxing, found herself laughing at the right moments, asking questions, engaging in a way that didn't feel forced. It felt real. After dinner, Elena excused herself to rest, and the nurse took her upstairs. Adrian and Lena were left to clean up. They worked in silence, washing dishes, putting away leftovers. The quiet was comfortable, easy in a way that shouldn't have been possible given the circumstances. She likes you, Adrian said eventually. I like her too. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't get attached. Lena set down the dish she was drying. It's a little late for that. It's not too late. When this is over, she'll be dead. The words came out harsher than Lena intended, but they were true. And you'll go back to your life and I'll go back to mine, and we'll both pretend this never happened, right? Adrian didn't answer. That's the plan, isn't it? Lena pressed. 3 months? Then I disappear. That was always the deal. Yeah, the deal. She threw the towel on the counter. Except nothing about this feels like a deal anymore. It feels like... She stopped, because finishing that sentence would have been too dangerous. Like what? Adrian's eyes were on her now, intense. Nothing. Forget it. Lena, I'm going to get some air. She walked out the back door before he could stop her. The backyard was small, just a patch of grass and an old swing set that had probably been there since Adrian was a kid. Lena sat down on one of the swings, wrapped her coat tighter, and tried to breathe. This was bad. This was so bad. She was starting to care. About Elena? About the strange rhythm of life in that house? About, don't think it, don't even think it. But it was already there, lodged in her brain like a splinter. She was starting to care about Adrian Voss, The man who'd threatened her life, who kept her prisoner, who ran a criminal empire and lied to the woman he loved most in the world. She was losing her mind. Footsteps behind her. Adrian appeared, hands in his pockets, looking as lost as she felt. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For all of it. For dragging you into this. For making you care about someone you know you're going to lose." He sat down on the other swing. I didn't think you'd actually get attached?" "Yeah." Lena looked at him. "Did you think I was a robot? I thought you were smarter than this." Despite everything, she almost smiled. "Turns out I'm an idiot." "Yeah, me too." They sat there, swinging slightly, not looking at each other. "What happens when she's gone?" Lena asked finally. "I don't know." "You're supposed to let me go. That's the deal." "I know. But," Adrian was quiet for a long time, "but I don't know if I can." Lena's heart stopped. "Not because I want to keep you prisoner," he continued, "but because—" He stopped, seemed to wrestle with the words. "Because having you here, seeing my grandmother happy, pretending for just a few hours that my life is something other than what it is, it's been human?" "Yeah." Lena didn't know what to say to that. The back door opened. The nurse appeared. "Mr. Voss, your grandmother would like to say good night." They went back inside. Elena was in bed now, propped up with pillows, looking exhausted but content. "Thank you for coming," she said, reaching for their hands. "Both of you. It meant everything." "Any time, Grandma," Adrian said softly. Elena looked at Lena. "Take care of him. He acts tough, but he needs someone." Lena squeezed her hand. "I will." It was a promise she had no right to make. They left shortly after. The drive back was silent, both of them lost in their own thoughts. When they got to the house, Adrian walked Lena to her room. "Tomorrow," he said, "we have another meeting. Different group, different stakes. You up for it?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really." "Then I guess I'm up for it." Adrian nodded, started to leave, stopped. "Lena?" "Yeah?" "Thank you. For tonight. For making her happy." "You don't have to thank me." "I know. But I'm doing it anyway." He left before she could respond. Lena closed the door, leaned against it, and tried to figure out what the hell she was doing. She was falling. That was the truth of it. Falling into a life she didn't want, with a man she shouldn't trust, in a world that would probably kill her. And the worst part? She wasn't sure she wanted to stop. Part 3. Lưu ý, viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, phá hồi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần, duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình, viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sang. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mướt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Showmore 1333 Part 3. War, Loss, and Choice. The call came at 3 in the morning. Lena jerked awake to pounding on her door, her heart already racing before her brain caught up. She stumbled out of bed, pulled on a robe, opened the door to find Vince standing there with his gun drawn. "Get dressed," he said. "Now." "What's happening?" "Just move." She grabbed clothes, changed in the bathroom while her hands shook. When she emerged, Vince was talking into his phone, his voice low and urgent. He saw her, ended the call. "Downstairs. Stay close to me." They moved through the dark hallway. Lena could hear voices below, sharp and angry. When they reached the main floor, she saw Adrian in the center of the room, still in the clothes he'd worn to dinner, looking like he hadn't slept. Marcus was there, and 3 other men she recognized from the warehouse meeting. Adrian looked up when she entered. His expression was stone. "Take her to the safe room." "What's going on?" Lena demanded. "Not now." "Adrian, Vince, get her out of here." But before Vince could move, Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went white. "Sir," he said quietly, "they took the West Side warehouse, burned it. 3 of our guys are dead, 2 in the hospital." The room went silent. Adrian's jaw clenched. "When?" 20 minutes ago. Reyes's people. They left a message." "What kind of message?" Marcus hesitated, glanced at Lena. "Say it," Adrian said. "They said you can have the territory back when you hand over what belongs to them." They didn't specify what that meant. Adrian's eyes cut to Lena. Something cold washed over his face. "Get her to the safe room. Now. Full lockdown protocol." This time, Vince didn't wait. He grabbed Lena's arm and pulled her toward a door she'd never noticed before, hidden behind a bookshelf in the library. It swung open to reveal a staircase leading down. "Wait," Lena said, digging her heels in. "What did that message mean? What do they want?" "You," Vince said flatly. "They want you." Her blood went ice. "Why?" "Because word got out that you're important to Voss, which makes you leverage." He pulled harder. "Now move." The safe room was exactly what it sounded like. Concrete walls, reinforced door, enough supplies to last a week. Vince shoved her inside. "Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except me or Voss. Understand?" "Vince?" He closed the door. She heard the locks engage, heavy and final. Lena stood in the small space, her breathing too loud in the silence, and tried not to panic. They wanted her. Reyes's people knew about her, knew she mattered to Adrian somehow, and now they were using her as bait. This was what happened when you stopped being careful, when you let yourself care. She sank down onto the cot in the corner and waited. Hours passed. No sound from above, no indication of what was happening. Lena paced, sat, paced again. Her mind kept running through scenarios, each one worse than the last. Finally, the locks disengaged. The door opened. Adrian stood there, looking like he'd aged 10 years. There was blood on his shirt. Not his, she hoped, and his eyes were hard. "You okay?" he asked. "Am I okay?" "Adrian, what the hell is going on?" He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. "Reyes made his move. He hit us hard. Warehouses, distribution points, 2 of our transport routes. Killed 6 people, wounded a dozen more." Lena felt sick. "Why?" "Because he wants a war, and because—" Adrian stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "Because he found out about you." "How?" "Someone talked. Someone in my organization saw you at that meeting, put 2 and 2 together, sold the information." His voice was bitter. "I've got people looking into who, but right now it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're a target. So what do we do?" "I'm sending you away, someplace safe, outside the city. Vince will take you tonight." "No." Adrian looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "This isn't a discussion." "You're right. It's not." Lena stood. "Because I'm not leaving." "Lena, if I run, they'll just chase me. Use me to get to you anyway. At least here, I'm behind your walls, surrounded by your people." She crossed her arms. "I'm safer here than anywhere else. You don't understand what's coming. When Reyes realizes he can't get to you directly, he's going to escalate. This war is going to get ugly, and I can't—" His voice cracked. "I can't protect you and fight this at the same time." "Then don't protect me. Focus on ending this." "That's not an option." "Why?" Lena stepped closer. "Because your grandmother would be upset if something happened to your fake girlfriend." Adrian's expression shifted. "No, because I'd be upset." The words hung between them. Lena's heart hammered. "Adrian, don't." He turned away. "Don't make this harder than it already is. You're the one who said you didn't know if you could let me go." "I shouldn't have said that." "But you did." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned back to face her. and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "You want the truth?" he said quietly. "Fine. You were supposed to be a tool, a means to an end, someone I could use and discard when I was done. But you're not. You're not like anyone I've ever met. You're stubborn and smart, and you look at me like I'm a person, not a monster. And it's—" He stopped. "It's ruining everything." Lena didn't know what to say to that. "So yeah," Adrian continued, "I want you safe. I want you far away from this. Because if something happens to you, if Reyes gets his hands on you because of me—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Nothing's going to happen to me," Lena said, with more confidence than she felt. "You don't know that." "No. But I know that running won't fix this, so I'm staying. Deal with it." Adrian stared at her. Then, despite everything, he almost smiled. "You're insane." "Yeah, runs in the company I keep." The moment broke. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening again. "I have to go. Marcus set up a meeting with the other families. We need allies if we're going to survive this. Take me with you." "Absolutely not." "Adrian, if they know about me anyway, hiding me just makes me look weak." "Makes you look weak?" She met his eyes. "Let me be there. Let them see that I'm not afraid." "You should be afraid." "I am, but I'm good at hiding it." He considered this. "If you come, you follow my lead. You don't speak unless I tell you to, and if things go south, Vince gets you out. No arguments." "Fine. I mean it, Lena. No heroics. I'm a journalist, not an action hero. I'll behave." An hour later, they were in the car heading back into the city. Lena wore another dress, another pair of heels, another layer of armor disguised as elegance. Vince drove. Adrian sat beside her, reviewing something on his phone. "Who are we meeting?" she asked. "The Castellano family. They control the north side. If we can get them to back us against Reyes, we might be able to contain this before it spreads." And if they say no?" "Then we're on our own." The meeting was in a restaurant, closed to the public but clearly operational. They were shown to a private room in the back, where a long table had been set with wine and food that no one was touching. At the head of the table sat a man in his 60s, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that had probably been tailored in Italy. This was Vincent Castellano, Lena realized. She'd seen his picture in the files. 2 other men flanked him, sons probably, based on the resemblance. Castellano stood when they entered. "Adrian, good to see you." "Vincent." They shook hands. Adrian gestured to Lena. "This is Lena Carter." Castellano's eyes swept over her. "The journalist. I've heard about you." "All good things, I hope," Lena said, keeping her voice light. "Depends on your definition of good." He gestured to the chairs. "Sit. Let's talk." They sat. Wine was poured. No one drank. "You know why I'm here," Adrian said. "Reyes." Castellano nodded. "He's making noise, causing problems. I heard about the warehouse." "He's trying to start a war." "Is he? Or is he responding to aggression?" Adrian's expression didn't change. "I've kept my operations clean, stayed in my territory, honored every agreement. Except the one about not getting involved with civilians." Castellano's gaze flicked to Lena. "That's what started this, isn't it? Reyes thinks you've gone soft, thinks you're distracted. What I do in my personal life has nothing to do with business. In our world, everything is business." Castellano leaned back. "You bring a woman into your life, you make her a target. You make yourself vulnerable. That's not soft. That's stupid." Lena felt Adrian tense beside her. "With respect," she said quietly, "I can speak for myself." Castellano raised an eyebrow. "Can you?" "Yes. And what I'd say is this. Adrian didn't make me vulnerable. I was already at risk the moment I walked into that parking garage. What he did was give me protection. Give me a chance to survive in a world that doesn't care about journalists asking the wrong questions." Interesting way to phrase it. "It's the truth." One of Castellano's sons spoke up. "She's got guts, at least." "Guts get people killed," the other son muttered. Castellano held up a hand. "Enough." He looked at Adrian. "You want my support. What are you offering in exchange?" "A unified front. We back each other against external threats, share intelligence, coordinate on supply lines." Adrian's voice was steady. "Reyes isn't just coming for me. If he wins, He'll have the confidence to move on you next. Maybe. Or maybe I make a deal with him instead. The room went cold. Adrian didn't blink. You could do that, and then you'd be allied with someone who burns warehouses and kills civilians to make a point. Someone who has no code, no rules, no honor. Honor. Castellano smiled thinly. That's a word I haven't heard in a long time. It still means something. They stared at each other across the table. Finally, Castellano nodded. All right, you've got my support. But Adrian, if this blows up, if Reyes brings the kind of heat that threatens my operations, I'm pulling out. Understood? Understood. They shook hands again. The meeting ended. Adrian and Lena left with Vince close behind. In the car, Lena let out a breath. That was... Don't. Adrian's voice was tight. Don't say anything yet. They drove in silence until they were back at the house. Only then did Adrian speak. You shouldn't have said anything in there. I know, but he was testing you, testing us. If I'd stayed quiet, he would have thought I was just decoration. You are just decoration. That's the whole point. Except it's not anymore. Lena turned to face him. You said it yourself. I matter. To you, to Elena, to this whole situation. Pretending otherwise just makes us both look weak. Adrian rubbed his face. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably, but at least I'll go down fighting. Despite everything, he smiled, just a little. You're the most frustrating person I've ever met. I'll take that as a compliment. The next few days were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and preparations. Adrian was coordinating with Castellano's people, shoring up defenses, moving assets. Lena stayed close, learning, observing, trying to be useful without getting in the way. And through it all, they visited Elena. She was getting worse. The pain was more constant now, the medication stronger. But she still asked about them, still smiled when they walked in, still believed the lie they were selling. When are you two getting married? She asked one afternoon. Lena nearly choked on her water. We're taking it slow, Grandma, Adrian said. You don't have time to take it slow. Life is short. Elena looked at Lena. Don't let him drag his feet, dear. He's stubborn, but he's worth it. I'll keep that in mind, Lena managed. When they left that day, Elena was already asleep, her breathing shallow and labored. In the car, Adrian was silent. She's dying, Lena said quietly. I know. How long? Days? Maybe a week? Lena reached over, took his hand. He didn't pull away. I'm sorry, she said. Yeah, me too. They didn't talk about it after that, but something had shifted. The pretense was gone, burned away by the weight of everything happening around them. They were just two people holding on to each other in the dark. Then Reyes made his next move. It happened fast. Lena was in the library reading when Vince burst in. We've got a breach. East perimeter, multiple hostiles. Lena's heart stopped. Where's Adrian? Office. Come on. They ran. The house erupted into chaos. Men moving, weapons drawn, shouting. Lena reached Adrian's office just as he was pulling a gun from his desk drawer. How many? He demanded. 8, maybe 10, Vince said. They're moving fast, professional. Get Lena to the safe room. No time. They're already inside. Adrian's expression went dark. He looked at Lena. Stay behind me. Do not run. Do not make yourself a target. Adrian, just trust me. They moved as a unit. Adrian in front, Vince behind, Lena sandwiched between them. The sound of gunfire echoed from somewhere in the house. Breaking glass. Shouting. They made it to the main hall when the first man appeared. He was young, maybe 25, with a gun and a look in his eyes that said he knew exactly who he was looking for. He saw Lena raise the weapon. Adrian fired first. The man went down. More appeared, coming from the kitchen, from the side entrance, from upstairs. Adrian and Vince moved like they'd done this 1,000 times, covering angles, dropping targets, pushing forward. Lena pressed herself against the wall, tried to stay small, tried not to think about the bodies hitting the floor. Then someone grabbed her from behind. She screamed. An arm locked around her throat, cutting off air. She clawed at it, kicked backward, got nowhere. Drop your weapons, a voice said behind her, or she dies. Adrian and Vince froze. Slowly, Adrian lowered his gun. Let her go. You first. Not happening. The arm around Lena's throat tightened. Black spots danced in her vision. Adrian, she gasped. His eyes met hers. There was something there. Desperation, fury, fear. Things she'd never seen in him before. All right, he said. All right, just don't hurt her. He set the gun down, kicked it away. The man holding Lena laughed. Reyes was right. You did go soft. Then everything happened at once. Vince moved faster than Lena thought possible. A shot fired. The arm around her throat loosened. She dropped, gasping, and saw Adrian already moving, grabbing his gun, firing twice. The man holding her fell. Adrian was on her in a second, pulling her up, checking her over. You okay? Lena, look at me. Are you okay? She nodded, couldn't speak. More gunfire from upstairs. Then silence. Vince spoke into his radio. Status. A voice crackled back. Clear. All hostiles down. 2 of ours wounded, none critical. Adrian didn't let go of Lena. His hands were shaking. They came for you, he said quietly. They came into my house and tried to take you. I know. I can't. His voice broke. I can't do this. I can't keep you safe and fight this war. I can't. Adrian. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I'm okay. I'm right here. This time. What about next time? Then we deal with next time. He stared at her, something raw and broken in his expression. Then he pulled her against him, held her so tight she could barely breathe. I'm ending this, he said into her hair. Tonight. No more waiting. He pulled back, turned to Vince. Get everyone together. We're going after Reyes. Sir, if we move now. Now. I want him bleeding before sunrise. Vince hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. Adrian looked at Lena. I need you to stay here, please. Just this once. Stay here where I know you're safe. She wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. Okay, she said quietly. But you come back. You hear me? You come back. I will. He kissed her, fast, desperate, real. Then he was gone, disappearing into the chaos with Vince at his side. Lena stood alone in the hall, surrounded by bodies and broken glass, and tried to breathe. Hours passed. Diane found her, took her to the safe room, stayed with her. They didn't talk. What was there to say? Lena waited, and tried not to think about all the ways this could end badly. Finally, just before dawn, the door opened. Adrian stood there. He was alive, bleeding from a cut above his eye, bruised, exhausted, but alive. It's done, he said. Reyes? Gone. Castellano's people helped. We hit him from 3 sides, took out his operation, his crew. He ran. Won't be coming back. Lena stood. And your people? Some wounded, none dead. He sat down heavily on the cot. It's over. The war's over. She sat beside him. What happens now? Now we clean up, rebuild, make sure everyone knows what happens when you come at me. He looked at her. And I keep my promise to my grandmother. Adrian. His phone rang. He looked at the screen, and his face went white. It's the care facility, he said quietly. He answered, listened, then closed his eyes. We'll be right there, he said, and ended the call. Lena already knew. She's dying. They said maybe an hour, maybe less. His voice was hollow. We need to go, now. They drove through the empty pre-dawn streets, neither of them speaking. The city was quiet, like it was holding its breath. At the facility, a nurse met them at the door. She looked exhausted. She's been asking for you, the nurse said. They went to Elena's room. She was so small in the bed, so fragile, but her eyes were open, and when she saw them, she smiled. There you are, she whispered. Adrian took her hand. Hi, Grandma. We're here. Good. She looked at Lena. Both of you, that's good. Lena sat on the other side of the bed, took Elena's other hand. They stayed like that as the sun came up. Elena drifted in and out, sometimes talking, sometimes just breathing. She told Adrian she loved him, told him to be happy, Told him to let go of whatever darkness he was carrying. Promise me, she said. Promise you'll live. Really live. I promise, Adrian said, his voice breaking. Elena looked at Lena. Take care of him. I will. Good. Her eyes closed. That's good. Her breathing slowed. Adrian held her hand, his face carved from stone, tears running down his cheeks, and then, quietly, gently, Elena Voss let go. The silence that followed was absolute. Adrian sat there, still holding her hand, not moving. Lena didn't know what to do, what to say. There was nothing that would make this better. Finally, he stood, kicked his grandmother's forehead, walked out of the room. Lena followed. They didn't speak on the drive back. What was there to say? At the house, Adrian went straight to his office and closed the door. Lena stood in the hall, lost. Diane appeared. Let him be. He needs time. She's gone, Lena said numbly. I know, dear, I know. The funeral was small. Just a handful of people who'd known Elena, who'd loved her. Adrian stood at the front, gave a eulogy that was short and simple and completely inadequate for the woman being buried. Lena stood beside him, playing the role one last time, except it didn't feel like a role anymore. After the service, after everyone had left, Adrian stood at the grave alone. Lena approached slowly. You okay? No? Stupid question. Sorry. He was quiet for a long time, then, she made me promise to live, to really live, not just survive. I heard. I don't know how to do that. Lena took his hand. Neither do I, but maybe we figure it out. He looked at her. You know what comes next, right? The deal. 3 months. It's over. Her heart clenched. Yeah, I know. You're free to go. I'll have Vince pack your things, get you set up somewhere safe. New identity if you want it. Enough money to start over. His voice was flat, mechanical. You'll never have to see me again. Everything in her wanted to say no, to tell him she didn't want to leave, but the words stuck in her throat. Is that what you want? She asked instead. Adrian pulled his hand away. What I want doesn't matter. I made you a promise. 3 months, then you're free. I'm keeping it. Adrian, go, Lena, before I change my mind. He walked away, back to the car, leaving her standing alone in the cemetery. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Lena realized she had a choice. She could leave. Take the money, the freedom, the clean escape. Go back to her life, her apartment, her job. Pretend none of this ever happened. Or she could stay. Stay with a man who'd threatened her life, kept her prisoner, dragged her into a world of violence and lies. A man who'd also protected her, trusted her, let her see the broken parts of himself he showed no one else. A man she'd somehow, impossibly, fallen for. The choice should have been easy. It wasn't. Part Bon lưu ý chồng. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, pha hồi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mọi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sảng, có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mướt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau, lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật, không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show more. 1336. Part 4. Freedom or Love. Lena left 3 days after the funeral. She didn't tell Adrian she was going, didn't ask permission or make a scene. She just waited until he was locked in his office, drowning in whatever darkness had swallowed him whole, and packed her things. Diane found her in the hallway, a small bag over her shoulder, wearing her own clothes for the first time in months. "So you're really leaving," Diane said. It wasn't a question. "He told me to. He tells people a lot of things when he's hurting. Doesn't mean he means them." Lena looked at the older woman. "What do you want me to say? That I'm in love with him? That I don't know how to leave?" Her voice cracked. "Because I don't. I don't know how to walk away from this." "Then don't. It's not that simple." Diane stepped closer, her expression softer than Lena had ever seen it. "Yes, it is. You either love him enough to stay through the hard parts or you don't. Everything else is just noise. He kept me prisoner. He protected you. He threatened people I care about, and then made sure they stayed safe." Diane's eyes were knowing. "You can list all his sins if it makes you feel better about leaving, but we both know that's not why you're going." Lena's throat tightened. "Then why am I?" "Because you're scared. Because staying means choosing a life you never wanted with a man who's broken in ways you can't fix. Because it's easier to run than to stand there and see what happens next." The words hit like a physical blow. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to defend herself, but she couldn't. Because Diane was right. She was terrified. "I don't belong here," Lena said quietly. "Maybe not. But you belong with him. I've worked for Mr. Voss for 12 years, and I've never seen him like this. Never seen him care about anything except his grandmother and his empire." Diane paused. "You changed something in him. Don't waste that." "What if it's not enough? What if I stay and it all falls apart anyway?" "Then at least you'll know you tried." Lena looked down at her bag, at the door, at the life waiting outside those gates. She thought about her apartment, cold, empty, exactly as she'd left it. Her job, which probably didn't exist anymore after months of absence. Her friends, who'd stopped calling when she disappeared. She thought about freedom, real freedom. The kind where no one controlled her movements or decided who she could talk to or what she could say. Then she thought about Adrian, the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his world. The way he'd held her after the attack, like letting go might break him. The way his voice had cracked when his grandmother died. The way he'd kissed her, desperate and honest and terrifying. She thought about Elena's last words. "Take care of him." "I need time," Lena said finally. "I need to think. Away from here. Away from him." Diane nodded slowly. "How long?" "I don't know. A few days. Maybe a week. And if he asks where you went, tell him the truth. Tell him I left because he told me to." Lena adjusted the bag on her shoulder. "And tell him I'm sorry." She walked out before she could change her mind. Vince was waiting by the car. He didn't say anything, just opened the door. They drove in silence to the address Lena gave him. A cheap motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where no one asked questions and cash worked better than credit cards. "You need anything, you call," Vince said when they arrived. "Day or night, I'll come get you." "I'm not in danger anymore. Reyes is gone." "Doesn't mean you're safe." He looked at her seriously. "There are people who know your face now. Know you were close to Voss. That doesn't just disappear because you left." Lena hadn't thought about that. "How long until it does?" "Honestly, never. You're part of this world now whether you like it or not." The words settled like stones in her stomach. She checked into the motel, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed. The room was dingy, the sheets questionable, the heating barely functional. It was nothing like the mansion, nothing like the life she'd been living for the past 3 months. It felt like freedom. It felt like hell. Lena stared at the stained ceiling and tried to figure out what she wanted. The days blurred together. She didn't leave the motel much. Ordered food delivery, watched bad TV, tried to write. The Tribune had sent her a dozen emails asking where she'd been, if she was okay, if she still worked for them. She ignored all of them. She thought about calling Sarah, her friend in Milwaukee. Thought about reaching out to her former roommate, her editor, anyone who belonged to her old life. But every time she picked up the phone, she couldn't do it. What would she even say? "Hey, sorry I've been MIA for 3 months. I was being held captive by a crime boss and pretending to be his girlfriend to make his dying grandmother happy. Oh, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love with him. How have you been?" Yeah, that would go over great. On the 4th day, someone knocked on her door. Lena froze. It was late, Past 11. She hadn't ordered food, hadn't told anyone where she was except Vince. The knock came again. Harder. She approached the door slowly, looked through the peephole. It was Adrian. Her heart stopped. He looked rough, hadn't shaved, clothes wrinkled, eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept in days. He knocked again, and when she didn't answer, he spoke. "I know you're in there, Lena. Your car's parked outside." She closed her eyes, pressed her forehead against the door. "I'm not here to make you come back," he continued. I need to talk to you, please." She shouldn't open the door. Should tell him to leave, to respect her space, to honor the deal they'd made. She opened the door. Adrian looked at her like a drowning man seeing shore. "Hi. Hi." They stood there, awkward and broken and trying to figure out what came next. "Can I come in?" he asked. Lena stepped aside. He walked into the small room, looked around at the peeling wallpaper and the flickering TV and the unmade bed. "This is where you've been?" "It's cheap, anonymous, safe. It's a shithole. It's mine." She crossed her arms. "How did you find me?" "Vince told me where he dropped you off. I've been—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "I've been sitting in my car down the street for 2 days trying to figure out what to say." 2 days? Yeah. Lena didn't know what to do with that. "You should have just called. You would have hung up on me." "Probably." Adrian turned to face her. "I'm sorry for telling you to leave, for pushing you away when I should have—" He stopped. "I'm sorry. You kept your promise. That's what you said you'd do. 3 months, then I'm free." "I know, but I didn't think it would feel like this." "Like what?" "Like I cut off my own arm and handed it to you." His voice was raw. "You were supposed to be temporary, a means to an end. But you're not. You're everything I didn't know I needed, and now you're gone. And I don't know how to—" He stopped, closed his eyes. "I don't know how to be okay with that." Lena's chest ached. "Adrian, I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that letting you go was the hardest thing I've ever done. And if I could take it back, if I could—" He opened his eyes, looked at her directly. "I would choose you. Every time. Over everything." The words hung in the air between them. Lena felt tears burning behind her eyes. "You can't just show up here and say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes this impossible. Because I spent 4 days trying to convince myself that leaving was the right choice, and you just—" She gestured helplessly. "You just destroyed all of it." "Good." "It's not good, it's—" She stopped, turned away. "You don't understand. I can't go back to being your prisoner. I can't go back to a life where I'm not in control." "Then don't." Adrian stepped closer. "Come back as my partner, my equal, someone I trust with everything, not because I have to, but because I want to." "That's not how your world works." "Then I'll change how it works." His voice was fierce. "I'll change everything if it means you stay." Lena turned back to face him. "You can't promise that." "Watch me." They stared at each other. All the fear, all the longing, all the impossible feelings they'd been dancing around for months. It was all right there, burning in the space between them. "I don't know if I can do this," Lena whispered. "Do what?" "Love someone like you. Live in a world like yours. Wake up every day knowing that violence could come through the door at any moment." "I know. And I won't lie to you. It's dangerous. It's messy. There will be nights you hate me and days you wish you'd never met me." He paused. "But I'll protect you. I'll stand between you and anything that tries to hurt you. And I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of the fact that you chose to stay." "What if I can't? What if I try and it's too much?" "Then you leave and I let you go." He took her hand. "But at least give us a chance. Don't walk away because you're scared. Walk away because you tried and it didn't work." Lena looked down at their joined hands. "This is insane." "Yeah, but so are we." But despite everything, she laughed. It came out choked, half sob, but it was real. "I need time," she said. "Real time to figure out if I can actually do this." Adrian nodded. "How much time?" "I don't know. A week, maybe 2. "Okay. And I need space. No checking up on me, no having Vince watch me, no—" "I get it. Space." He squeezed her hand once, then let go. But Lena, don't disappear on me. Even if you decide you can't do this, even if you choose to leave for good, just tell me. Don't vanish. I won't. He turned to leave, stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I love you. I know I have no right to, and I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed to say it, at least once. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone again with her thoughts, and a choice that felt impossible. She didn't sleep that night. She paced the small room, replayed the conversation, tried to think logically about what came next. But logic had nothing to do with this. This was all feeling, messy, complicated, terrifying feeling. She loved him. That was the truth of it. Loved him despite everything, because of everything, in ways that made no sense and perfect sense all at once. But love wasn't enough. Was it? The next morning, she made a decision. She called Sarah. Her friend answered on the third ring. Lena? Oh my God, Lena. But where the hell have you been? I've been trying to reach you for months. I know. I'm sorry. Something came up. I couldn't. Lena stopped, took a breath. Can I come see you? I need to talk to someone. Of course. When? Today. Now. I'm driving up. There was a pause. Lena, are you okay? No, but I will be. I need help figuring some things out. Okay. Come up. I'll make coffee. The drive to Milwaukee took 3 hours. Lena spent it trying to organize her thoughts, trying to figure out how to explain the past 3 months without sounding completely insane. Sarah lived in a small house near the university where she taught. She answered the door with a hug that lasted too long and eyes that were worried. You look like hell, she said. Thanks. You too. Liar. Sarah pulled her inside. Coffee's ready. Sit. Talk. They sat at the kitchen table. Lena wrapped her hands around a warm mug and tried to figure out where to start. I met someone, she said finally. Sarah's eyebrows went up. Okay. That's not what I expected. It's complicated. Relationships usually are not like this. Lena took a breath. He's not a good person by any normal definition. He's dangerous and controlling, and he's done things I can't even talk about. Sarah's expression shifted. Lena, if someone hurt you, he didn't. I mean, he did, but not. She stopped, tried again. He kept me against my will for 3 months, made me pretend to be his girlfriend to make his dying grandmother happy. The silence that followed was absolute. I'm calling the police, Sarah said, reaching for her phone. No, don't. Lena grabbed her hand. It's over. She died. I'm free. But Her voice broke. I don't want to be. Sarah stared at her. You're not making sense. I know. Believe me, I know. Lena set down her mug. Somewhere in the middle of all that nightmare, I fell in love with him. And now I have to decide if I go back or if I walk away and try to rebuild my life. That's not a decision. You leave. Obviously you leave. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Lena, this man kidnapped you. He saved my life multiple times, and he... She stopped, tried to put it into words. He saw me, the real me. Not the journalist, not the version of myself I show the world, just me. And he didn't run. Sarah was quiet for a moment. You're serious about this? Unfortunately. Does he love you back? He says he does. And you believe him? Lena thought about Adrian at her motel door looking wrecked, about the way he'd held her after Elena died, about the way he'd kissed her like she was oxygen. Yeah, she said quietly. I do. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is that his world is violent and dangerous, and I could die just by being near him. The problem is that I'd be giving up my freedom, my career, everything I worked for. The problem is that normal people don't fall in love with criminals and live happily ever after. Normal people are boring, Lena almost smiled. This is serious, Sarah. I know, and you want me to tell you what to do, but I can't. This is your life, Lena, your choice. Sarah reached across the table, took her hand. But I will say this, I've known you since college. I've seen you chase stories that could get you killed, confront people twice your size, refuse to back down even when it would have been smart. You've never been scared of a challenge. This is different. How? Because this time, my heart's involved. Exactly. Which means it actually matters. Sarah squeezed her hand. So ask yourself this. If you walk away, will you spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been, or will you be relieved? Lena didn't answer. Couldn't. Because she already knew the truth. She stayed in Milwaukee for 2 days. Talked with Sarah, walked around the city, tried to imagine a life where she went back to her apartment and her job and pretended the past 3 months never happened. She couldn't do it. Every scenario felt hollow, empty, wrong. On the morning of the 3rd day, she made her decision. She drove back to Chicago, not to the motel. That part of her life was over. She drove to the mansion, through the gates that opened automatically like they'd been expecting her, up the long driveway to the house that had been her prison and her refuge. Diane answered the door. Her expression shifted from surprise to something that looked like relief. "He's in his office," she said. "Hasn't come out in 2 days." Lena nodded, walked through the familiar halls, stopped outside the office door. She could hear movement inside, papers shuffling, a chair scraping. She knocked. "Come in." She opened the door. Adrian sat behind his desk, looking worse than he had at the motel. When he saw her, he went completely still. "Hi," Lena said. "Hi." His voice was careful, guarded. "What are you doing here?" "I made a decision." "Okay." She walked into the room, closed the door behind her. "I'm scared. Terrified, actually, of this, of you, of what happens next. And I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life." Adrian didn't move. But I'm choosing you anyway." She crossed to his desk. "Not because I have to, not because I'm trapped or threatened or out of options, because I want to, because the thought of walking away and never seeing you again feels worse than any danger I might face by staying." He stood slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "Lena, I have conditions." She held up a hand. "I'm not coming back as decoration or as someone you protect and hide away. If I'm doing this, I'm your partner. I get a say in decisions that affect me. I get to know what's happening in your world. And if I ever decide I can't do this anymore, you let me go. No threats, no manipulation, no... Done." She stopped. "Done?" "All of it. Whatever you need." He moved around the desk, stood in front of her. "I meant what I said. You're not my prisoner anymore. You're..." He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. "You're the only good thing in my life, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you here." Lena looked up at him, at the man who'd threatened her life and then gave her a reason to live. "This is going to be hard. I know. We're going to fight. There will be days I hate you. I know that too. And I can't promise I'll stay forever. I can only promise I'll try." "That's enough." He reached up, cupped her face in his hands. "That's more than enough." She kissed him. Not desperate this time, not frantic, just honest, real. When they broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "I love you. I love you too." The words felt strange, terrifying, right, even though you're a criminal and you ruined my life. Your life wasn't that great before me. True. She pulled back, looked at him seriously. "So what now?" "Now we figure it out, together." He paused. "But first, you're moving out of that motel and into a real apartment. One you choose, one that's yours." "I thought I was staying here." "You are. Sometimes. When you want to. But you need your own space, your own life outside of this." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I'm not keeping you locked up anymore, Lena. I'm letting you in. There's a difference." Something in her chest loosened. "Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out." They stood there in his office, holding each other, and for the first time in months, Lena felt like she could breathe. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. It wasn't anything like the life she'd imagined for herself. But it was real. And it was hers. And maybe that was enough. Part 5. Luigi. Viết sao nghìn đến sao nghìn năm trong thư liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ ba, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện. Lưu ý trả lời, trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dân bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show More 1339 Part 5, Choosing the Fire. The apartment Adrian found for her was in Lincoln Park, third floor of a renovated brownstone with tall windows and hardwood floors that creaked in all the right places. It was nothing like the mansion, smaller, quieter, hers in a way that felt real. Lena stood in the empty living room looking out at the street below and tried to process the fact that this was actually happening. "You hate it," Adrian said from the doorway. "I don't hate it." "You're making a face." "I'm thinking." She turned to look at him. "This is a lot. The apartment, the furniture you already ordered, the..." She gestured around. "All of it. Too much? Maybe. But also..." She stopped, tried to find the right words. "Also exactly what I needed." Adrian walked into the room, hands in his pockets. He looked more relaxed than she'd seen him in weeks, like some weight had lifted. "You can change anything you want. Paint, furniture, layout. It's yours." "How much is the rent?" "Doesn't matter." "Adrian?" "It's handled. Consider it part of the deal." Lena crossed her arms. "We talked about this. I'm not a kept woman." "You're not. You're..." He stopped, seemed to reconsider. "You're someone I care about, who I'm helping get back on her feet. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah, because you can leave any time you want. This place is in your name, not mine. The lease, the utilities, all of it. I'm just covering the costs until you figure out what you want to do next." That caught her off guard. "My name?" "Your name." She didn't know what to say to that. In his world, control was everything. Giving her something that was truly hers, with no strings attached, it meant something. "Thank you," she said quietly. Adrian nodded, looked around the empty space. "So what's first? Bed, couch, kitchen stuff?" "Coffee maker. Definitely coffee maker." He smiled, actually smiled. "I'll make a call." They spent the rest of the day setting up the apartment. Furniture arrived, pieces Lena picked out from catalogs, nothing too expensive, nothing that felt like Adrian's taste bleeding into hers. By evening, the place looked lived in, functional, home. Lena collapsed on the new couch, exhausted. Adrian sat beside her, close but not touching. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Strange. Good strange, but strange." She looked at him. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "What other shoe?" "The one where you change your mind, where this stops being real and goes back to being..." She gestured vaguely. "Whatever it was before." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "I can't promise I won't screw this up. I probably will, multiple times. But I can promise I'm not going anywhere, not unless you tell me to. And if I do, then I go. No fight, no drama." He paused. "But I really hope you don't." Lena leaned against him, let herself relax into his warmth. "Me too." They sat like that until the sun went down and the streetlights came on outside. It was peaceful, easy in a way that shouldn't have been possible given everything they'd been through. "I should go," Adrian said eventually. "Let you settle in." "You could stay." He looked at her. "Yeah?" "Yeah, I mean, if you want to. No pressure." "I want to." He stood, pulled her up. "But first, I'm ordering pizza." Because I know for a fact you didn't buy any food yet. How do you know that? Because you never think about practical things when you're overwhelmed. It's one of your tells. Lena wanted to argue, but he was right. Fine, pizza, but I'm picking the toppings. Deal. That night set the pattern for the weeks that followed. Adrian would come over after his meetings, after his calls, after whatever darkness he dealt with in his other life. They'd eat dinner, talk, exist in the small pocket of normalcy they'd carved out. Some nights he'd stay. Some nights he'd leave. Lena never asked him to do either, just let him choose. And slowly, carefully, they built something that felt like a relationship. It wasn't smooth. There were fights. About his work, about her safety, about the fact that she still didn't have a job and was living off his money whether she liked it or not. There were nights she couldn't sleep because she was too aware of the violence lurking just outside her door. Nights she questioned every choice that had led her here. But there were good moments too. Mornings where she'd wake up to find Adrian already awake, watching her like she might disappear. Afternoons where they'd walk through the city like normal people, grabbing coffee and arguing about nothing important. Evenings where he'd tell her things about his life, his past, the weight he carried that no one else ever saw. He opened up in ways she suspected he never had before. Told her about his parents' death, about the anger that had driven him to build an empire out of spite and survival. Told her about Elena, about the promises he'd made and broken and kept. And Lena told him things too, about her own past, her own failures, the stories she'd chased that had blown up in her face. About the guilt she felt for walking away from journalism, even if it had been forced. "You could go back," Adrian said one night. They were in her apartment, sprawled on the couch with takeout containers scattered across the coffee table. "To the Tribune, to reporting. I wouldn't stop you." "I know you wouldn't, but I can't." Lena picked at her noodles. "Not after everything. Even if they'd take me back, which is doubtful, I can't pretend I don't know what I know. Can't write stories about corruption when I'm sleeping with the king of it. I'm not a king." "You know what I mean." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "What if you wrote about something else?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Human interest stories, culture pieces, things that don't involve digging into people's crimes." Lena considered this. "It's not the same. That's not why I became a journalist." "Then why did you?" She'd never really thought about it. "Because I wanted to make a difference. Expose the truth. Hold people accountable." "You still can, just differently." He set down his food, looked at her seriously. "The truth is, Lena, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met. And wasting that because you feel guilty about us is stupid. Thanks for the vote of confidence." "I'm serious. Find something you care about. Write about it. Maybe it's not the corruption stories you used to chase, but there are other things worth exposing, other truths worth telling." She wanted to dismiss it, but the idea stuck. Maybe he was right. Maybe she could find a way back to herself that didn't involve betraying everything she'd built with him. "I'll think about it," she said. Good. 2 weeks later, she pitched a story to a small online publication about housing inequality in Chicago. They accepted it. The piece ran, got decent traction, led to another assignment. And just like that, Lena was writing again. It wasn't the same as before. The stakes felt lower, the subjects less dangerous. But it was honest work, and it was hers. And for the first time in months, she felt like herself again. Adrian noticed. "You're happier," he said one evening. "I am." "Good. You should be." He paused. "I'm proud of you." The words hit harder than they should have. For what? For not letting this world break you. For finding a way to be yourself, even when everything's changed. Lena looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, impossible man, and felt something shift in her chest. "I love you." She'd said it before, but this time it felt different, more certain, less scared. Adrian pulled her close. "I love you too. Even though you're stubborn and you argue with me about everything and you refuse to let me protect you the way I want to. That's why you love me." "Yeah, it really is." The first real test came in October. Lena was at her apartment working on a story when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Lena Carter?" A woman's voice, professional. "Yes?" "This is Detective Sarah Chen with Chicago PD. I'd like to ask you some questions about Adrian Voss. Lena's blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about, Miss Carter. We have footage of you entering and leaving Mr. Voss's residence multiple times over the past few months. We know you've been involved with him. We just want to talk. Am I being investigated? No, but Mr. Voss is. And we think you might have information that could help us. Lena's mind raced. This was it. The moment where she had to choose. She could cooperate, tell them everything, use what she knew to bring Adrian down. Or she could protect him, lie to the police, make herself complicit in everything he'd done. I need to think about this, she said. Ms. Carter, I'll call you back. She hung up, sat there shaking, and tried to figure out what to do. An hour later, she was at Adrian's house. He took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. What happened? She told him everything. About the call, the detective, the choice she was facing. When she finished, Adrian was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You should cooperate." Lena stared at him. What? Tell them what you know. Help them build their case. It's the right thing to do. Are you insane? If I do that, they'll arrest you. You could go to prison. Maybe, maybe not. But, Lena, I'm not going to ask you to lie to the police for me. I'm not going to make you choose between your conscience and... He stopped. Between your conscience and me. You're already asking me to choose. By being with you, I'm already choosing. That's different. That's personal. This is your integrity, and I won't take that from you. Lena felt tears burning. I can't lose you. You won't. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out. He pulled her close. But I need you to do what's right, not what's easy, not what keeps me safe. What's right. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that right and wrong didn't matter when it came to the people you loved. But she knew he was testing her, giving her a way out if she wanted it. I'm not talking to them, she said finally. Adrian pulled back, looked at her. Lena, I'm not doing it. Not because I'm protecting you, but because I don't have anything useful to give them. I don't know the details of your operations. I don't know who your contacts are or where you keep your records. I was kept intentionally in the dark about all of that, remember? They won't believe that. They'll have to, because it's true. She met his eyes. I love you, Adrian, and I've made my choice. I'm not helping them take you down. You could get in trouble. Obstruction, conspiracy. Then I get in trouble. But I'm not betraying you. Not now. Not ever. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her. Hard, desperate, grateful. You're sure? He asked when they broke apart. I'm sure. Okay. Then we handle this together. He called his lawyer. Within an hour, Lena had representation. The lawyer advised her not to talk to the police without him present, not to answer any questions without understanding her rights. When Detective Chen called back, Lena told her she'd be happy to talk, with her lawyer present and only about what she'd directly witnessed. The detective agreed to set up a meeting. It happened 3 days later, in a gray interview room that smelled like old coffee and desperation. Lena sat across from Detective Chen and her partner, her lawyer beside her, and answered their questions as honestly as she could without incriminating anyone. Yes, she'd been involved with Adrian Voss. No, she didn't know the details of his business operations. Yes, she'd been present at some meetings, but only as a guest, not a participant. No, she had no direct knowledge of any illegal activities. It was all technically true. The detectives knew she was holding back, but they couldn't prove it. After 2 hours, they let her go. Outside, Lena's lawyer turned to her. They're going to keep digging. This isn't over. I know. Mr. Voss is under serious investigation. If they find something concrete, he's going down, and anyone close to him might go down too. I understand the risks. The lawyer studied her. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're throwing your life away for a man who might not be worth it. He is worth it, Lena said quietly, and it's my life to throw away. The lawyer sighed. Just be careful, that's all I'm saying. Lena went home, called Adrian, told him how it went. You did good, he said. Thank you. Don't thank me, I did what I had to do. Still, it means something. That night he came over. They didn't talk about the investigation, didn't talk about what might happen next. They just existed together, holding on to what they had while they still could. If this goes bad, Adrian said eventually, if they build a case and if I have to go away for a while, I need you to promise me something. What? That you'll move on, live your life. Don't wait for me. Lena pulled back to look at him. Are you serious right now? I'm serious. I don't want you putting your life on hold for... Too bad, because I'm not going anywhere. She grabbed his face. I chose you, Adrian. I chose this. And I don't care how hard it gets or how long it takes. I'm staying. Lena, no, you don't get to make that decision for me. If you go to prison, I'll wait. If you have to leave the city, I'll come with you. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's the deal. He looked at her like she'd just handed him something precious and fragile. You're going to regret this. Probably. But I'm doing it anyway. He kissed her again, and this time it felt like a promise. The investigation dragged on for weeks. Detectives showed up at Lena's apartment twice more, asking the same questions, hoping she'd slip up. She didn't. Her story stayed consistent because it was true. She didn't know enough to help them even if she wanted to. Meanwhile, Adrian worked behind the scenes, shoring up his organization, making sure nothing could be traced back to him directly. It was exhausting, watching him navigate the constant threat of discovery. But he never complained, never asked her to leave. And Lena stayed, wrote her stories, lived her life, showed up at his house for dinner like they were a normal couple dealing with normal problems. It became their new routine, strange and stressful and somehow still theirs. Then December came, and with it, an unexpected turning point. The investigation hit a dead end. The detectives couldn't find enough evidence to build a case. Too many shell companies, too many layers of protection, too many people who refused to talk. Without concrete proof, without witnesses willing to testify, there was nothing they could do. Adrian's lawyer called with the news. They're backing off, for now. For now? Adrian repeated. They'll keep watching, keep waiting for you to slip up. But the active investigation is over. When he told Lena, she felt something loosen in her chest that she hadn't realized was there. It's over? She asked. For now. They could always come back if something new comes up. But right now, you're safe? Right now, I'm safe. She kissed him, hard and relieved and grateful. We should celebrate. How? I don't know. Normal couple stuff, dinner, dancing, something that doesn't involve lawyers and detectives. Adrian smiled. I can do that. That night they went to a restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a small Italian place in Little Italy where no one knew who they were. They ate pasta and drank wine and talked about nothing important. For a few hours, they were just Adrian and Lena, not a crime boss and a journalist, not people hiding from investigations and making impossible choices, just two people who'd found each other in the dark and decided to hold on. Can I ask you something? Lena said over dessert. Sure. Do you ever regret it? This life you've built? Adrian considered the question. Sometimes, when I think about what I could have been if things had been different, if my parents hadn't died, if I'd made other choices, what would you have been? I don't know, something normal, something that didn't involve looking over my shoulder every day. He paused. But then I think about what I have now, the people I've protected, the empire I built from nothing, you, and I can't regret it, not completely. Even if it cost you everything? Even then. He reached across the table, took her hand, because the alternative would have been staying angry and broken forever. At least this way, I built something, even if it's not what I expected. Lena squeezed his hand. For what it's worth, I think you're more than what you've done, more than the empire and the violence and the choices you've made. Yeah? What am I? Someone who loved his grandmother enough to lie to her. Someone who protected me even when it would have been easier to kill me. Someone who's trying to be better even when the world keeps pulling you back. She paused. You're human, flawed and complicated and trying. That's enough. Adrian looked at her like she'd just given him something he didn't know he needed. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you've got me anyway. They finished dinner, walked through the cold December streets hand in hand, and for the first time in months, Lena felt something like peace. The holidays came and went. Lena spent Christmas at Adrian's house, surrounded by decorations that Diane had insisted on and food that was too elaborate for just the two of them. It was strange celebrating without Elena, but they did it anyway. In her memory, in her honor. New Year's Eve approached, and with it, a decision Lena had been wrestling with for weeks. She found Adrian in his office a few days before, going over year-end reports. "I want to go public," she said. He looked up. "What?" "With us. I want to stop hiding, stop pretending we're not together." Adrian set down his pen. "Lena, that's dangerous. If people know you're with me, it makes you a target. I'm already a target. People in your world know about me. The police know about me. The only people who don't are my friends and colleagues, and I'm tired of lying to them. If you do this, there's no taking it back. I know, but I'm tired of living in the shadows. I want to exist in the light, even if it's dangerous, even if it's messy." She crossed to his desk. "I want people to know I chose you, freely, completely." Adrian stood, walked around to face her. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "Then we do it. But we do it my way, controlled, smart, not reckless." "What did you have in mind?" "New Year's Eve, there's a charity gala. Legitimate, public, lots of press. We go together. Let people see us. Make it official." Lena's heart raced. That's big. "You said you wanted to go public. That's as public as it gets." She thought about it, about walking into a room full of Chicago's elite, Adrian's hand in hers, claiming her place in his life for everyone to see. It was terrifying. It was perfect. "Okay," she said, "let's do it." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Dress shopping, hair appointments, practicing her smile in the mirror. Lena felt like she was preparing for battle, which wasn't far from the truth. The night of the gala, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was elegant, deep blue, simple but expensive, the kind of thing that made a statement without screaming for attention. Her hair was up, her makeup subtle. She looked like someone who belonged in Adrian Voss's world. A knock at the door. Adrian stepped in, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her car, and stopped when he saw her. "You're staring," Lena said. "Yeah, because you're beautiful. Flattery will get you nowhere. Worth a shot." He crossed the room, handed her a small box. "I got you something." Inside was a necklace, simple, elegant, with a single diamond pendant. Not the fake engagement ring from months ago. Something real. "Adrian, it's not an engagement ring, not yet, just something that's yours, from me." He took it from the box, fastened it around her neck. "There. Perfect." Lena touched the pendant, felt the weight of it. "Thank you." "You ready for this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." He smiled. "That's my girl." The gala was held at the Field Museum, the kind of venue that made everything feel important. They arrived in Adrian's car, and the moment they stepped onto the red carpet, cameras flashed. Lena had been photographed before, crime scenes, press conferences, moments caught by news crews. But this was different. This was intentional. Public. Adrian kept his hand at the small of her back, steady and sure, as they walked through the gauntlet of reporters and photographers. A few shouted questions, but they ignored them, just smiled and kept moving. Inside, the museum had been transformed. String lights, champagne, people in expensive clothes talking about expensive things. Lena recognized a few faces. Politicians, business owners, people she'd written about in her old life. They stared, whispered, tried to figure out who she was and what she was doing with Adrian Voss. Let them wonder, Lena thought. Adrian introduced her to people, colleagues, associates, people whose names she'd have to remember for later. She smiled, shook hands, made small talk, played the part of the girlfriend at a charity gala, except it wasn't a part anymore. It was real. At midnight, when the countdown started, Adrian pulled her onto the dance floor. The band was playing something slow, something romantic that felt too perfect for their messy reality. "How are you holding up?" he asked as they swayed. "Better than I expected. You?" "Terrified someone's going to ask what you see in me." "Tell them I like a challenge." He laughed, and the sound made her heart squeeze. The countdown reached 0, Fireworks exploded outside the windows, bright and loud and celebratory. Around them, people kissed, cheered, toasted the new year. Adrian cupped Lena's face in his hands. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. He kissed her in front of everyone, photographers, colleagues, strangers. Kissed her like she was the only person in the room. When they broke apart, Lena was breathless. That was public? Very. Good. Let them talk. Let them know you're mine. I thought we agreed I wasn't property. You're not, but you're still mine. He pulled her closer, just like I'm yours. They danced until the band stopped playing, until the crowd thinned, until it was just them and the quiet and the promise of whatever came next. The next morning, they were on the front page of 3 different society columns. Pictures of them dancing, kissing, looking at each other like the rest of the world didn't exist. Lena read the articles over coffee, waiting for the panic to set in. But it didn't come. Instead, she felt relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for months and could finally exhale. Any regrets? Adrian asked. None. You? Not even close. Her phone rang. Sarah, calling from Milwaukee. Did you see it? Her friend asked when Lena answered. See what? The photos. You and whoever that guy is. Lena, who is he? Why didn't you tell me you were seeing someone? Lena smiled. It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated, but seriously, he looks intense. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm happy. There was a pause. You sound different. I am different, in a good way. Then I'm happy for you. But I want details. All of them. Soon, I promise. She hung up, looked at Adrian. My friend wants to meet you. Is she going to hate me? Probably, but she'll get over it. Life settled into a new normal after that. Lena wrote her stories, met with editors, slowly rebuilt her career in a way that felt honest. Adrian continued running his operations, but he was more careful now, more aware of the risks. They split time between her apartment and his house, never quite living together, but always close. It worked for them. The balance between independence and connection. There were still hard moments. Times when Adrian had to deal with threats that Lena couldn't know about. Times when she got scared of how deep she was in, how much she'd tied her life to someone who lived in constant danger. But they talked through it, fought when they needed to, gave each other space when the weight got too heavy, and slowly, carefully, they built something that lasted. Months passed. Winter turned to spring, spring to summer. Lena published a piece that got picked up nationally, started getting offers from bigger publications. Adrian shifted some of his operations, pulled back from the most dangerous aspects of his work, focused on the more legitimate businesses he'd built over the years. They weren't perfect, but they were real. One evening in late summer, they were sitting on the balcony of Lena's apartment, watching the sunset paint the city gold. I've been thinking, Adrian said. Dangerous. Shut up. He turned to look at her. I've been thinking about what comes next, for us. Lena's heart skipped. What do you mean? I mean, I don't want this to be temporary anymore. I don't want you to have your place and me to have mine. I want... He stopped, seemed to gather courage. I want you to move in with me. Officially. Completely. Adrian, I know it's fast. I know we said we'd take things slow, but it's been almost a year, Lena. And I don't want to spend another night wondering if you're coming back or if you finally decided I'm too much. Lena felt tears burning. I'm not going anywhere. Then prove it. Move in with me. Make it real. She looked at him. This man who'd started as her captor and somehow become her choice, her partner, her home. Okay? Okay? Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it real. Adrian pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. I love you. I love you too. Even though you're impossible and you drive me crazy and you still haven't figured out how to load a dishwasher properly. I'll work on it. They sat there as the sun disappeared and the city lights came on, holding each other and planning a future that neither of them had expected, but both of them wanted. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was theirs, built from lies and danger and impossible choices, forged into something real and lasting. Lena had walked into that parking garage expecting to expose corruption. Instead, she'd found something else entirely. Someone else entirely. And against all odds, against every reasonable expectation, she'd found home. Not in a place. Not in safety or security or any of the things she'd thought she needed, but in a person. In Adrian. In the choice to stay when running would have been easier. In the decision to build something from the ashes of everything they destroyed. She'd been trapped. Then she'd been freed. Then she'd chosen to come back. And that choice, that single, terrifying, impossible choice, had changed everything. They moved forward together into whatever came next. The danger didn't disappear. The complications didn't vanish, but they faced it together, two people who'd found each other in the dark and decided to hold on. For the first time in her life, Lena wasn't chasing truth for a story. She was living it. Messy, complicated, dangerous truth. And she wouldn't have changed a single moment.